Finally, the Solterra is available in New Zealand from Subaru. It's an all-electric, all-wheel drive beast. It's available in two flavours. Let's talk price and range. The entry-level one clocks in at $80,000. However, this one behind me, the touring version, it's got a few more gadgets, $85,000. Both do 485 k's per charge, probably. Let's, however, see what it's like on the open road. And we are off in the Subaru Solterra. And I guess we should talk about tech specs, starting with the variations. There will be two flavors, as I mentioned at the start of the video. They're both all-wheel drive. They both have 160 kilowatts of raw power at both front and rear wheels, 337 Newton meters of torque, and both, despite all the gadgets, both have a range of 485 kilometers per charge. Now, you might be wondering where the name Solterra comes, and for those viewers who are old enough to remember growing up in the Roman Empire, which might be the Solterra's target audience, then you'll remember that Sol means sun and Terra means earth. That's all part of Subaru's effort into making cleaner, greener cars, and within the next 4 years there will be no fewer than 8 all-electric models hitting the market. So they're not just talking the talk, they're walking the talk. As for the name Subaru, I'm not actually sure which is right. I'm going to be saying both. Maybe Subaru would work. However, there will be some viewers asking, hey, isn't this just a Toyota BXZX WD-40 in drag? And sort of. I mean, they are very similar cars. They're basically the same, but the Subaru has a little bit more cabin space inside, and there are some differences in drivetrain variations. All the Subarus will be all-wheel drive. Although I should add, there's not a lot of Sol going on today. As soon as I pressed record, the Latin for rain has begun. As for comfort though, well, it's a surprisingly comfortable car. Let's start with passenger comfort, and there is quite a lot of room above my head. The top spec model, this one, has electronically adjustable seats. It's got electronic lumbar support as well, and there's quite a lot of legroom. Although, even though this is an SUV, because of the battery pack taking up a bit of the space underneath the vehicle, your legs are kind of forward as if you're driving a car, not like an SUV where you're sitting up and begging. As for backseat passengers, however, oh, look at all the headroom you've got back there. There's heaps. I'm 5'10", and I've still got masses above my head. This is actually a surprisingly spacious car, good legroom as well, like many electric cars have. They've got a longer wheelbase. That's the distance between the front and the rear wheels, means that you've just got more room for backseat passengers. Continuing on comfort for backseat passengers, check this out. The back seats both recline. Yes, they don't recline much. They recline about as much as Jetstar economy, but unlike Jetstar, that's actually comfortable. Let's talk storage though, and there's quite a good amount. This will make a decent family car because the boot has 441 litres in this, the premium edition. However, if you get the entry-level version, there's actually more room because the entry-level version doesn't have that subwoofer in the back. This one does. This top spec model has the 10-speaker Harman Kardon sound system. The entry-level one doesn't, but you do get a little bit more room. Also, one cool thing is that the rear parcel shelf in the back here, it actually stows away. So under the boot floor, you can sneak it in there and it just gives you so much more room. One thing this car doesn't have though, that a lot of electric cars have, is a fartment or front compartment. You pop the bonnet on this thing, there's nothing but inverters and componentry in there. So if you've got potatoes, you got to store them in the boot. As for PSC, well, I can't measure the potato storage capacity because I only have my travel potatoes. So if you want to see that, including a full review with charging speed and road trip economy and all that, hit the subscribe button because I will get my hands on one of these for a longer term drive and I'm going to really put it through its paces. Stay tuned for that. Continuing with comfort, let's look at the seats. These seats are really quite comfortable. There's good lateral support in them, and both seats are heated. Yes, you've got heated seats in both the front and the back as well, and that comes standard on both variations. Let's move on to gadgets though, and the first gadget you want to notice is this big panoramic glass roof, kind of split into two sections, which is interesting. So you can open it and have the front half open only, or open it right up and open the back as well. Another cool gadget that I like, which I've not seen in any other car, is that if you try to reverse using just the mirror, and which you'll see, there's not a lot of room in the back window, there's not a lot of space to see. It's like many new electric cars. But if you push this button on the rear view mirror, all of a sudden the mirror turns into a display, giving you a complete rear view. It's really intelligent, that I like. Continuing talking displays, check out the central display on the Solterra. It's really logical. Everything's laid out cleanly, simply. It's got buttons. That's one thing I wish more car makers had when it comes to air conditioning at least. Just give me buttons. This has it. I like that. However, when you look at the central instrument cluster, That is busy. There's a lot going on there. It's busier than a mosquito in a nudist colony. Let's talk style though, starting with the outside, and I won't lie, when I first looked at the outside, I wasn't sure what to make of it, but it's really growing on me because I quite like the use of angles. Like, look at the tail light design. That's kind of decisive. And if you look at the front grille, that sort of embossed section, it's very reminiscent of the Mustang Mach-E. Overall, I think it's kind of pleasing. Although this model also has these plastic stick-on bits on the wheel arches. It gives it that sort of rugged look. And you might be thinking, well, yeah, but it's not really rugged, is it? It's just stick-on bits, just like putting me in heels. It's not convincing anyone. But actually, if you look at this B-roll footage that I stole from Subaru, this thing's actually fairly agile off-road. And part of that's because it's got 21 centimeters of ground clearance. That's not bad for a family car. As for interior style, well, again, I didn't quite know what to make of it when I sat behind the wheel. It's quite busy, but it's not unpleasant. After a very short time, I found myself kind of getting used to it. I quite like it. That rain is torrential. The wipers are good. But I mean, look at the central design, the central console here. You know what that reminds me of? The EV1, that iconic pioneering electric car. It's got that spaceship feel. Then of course you've got this steering wheel. It's very busy and it's square. And as the owner of an Austin Allegro, I appreciate that. Although if there's one way I could describe the interior details in this car, it's girthy. I mean, you look at the width of the center console. It's huge. Look at the chonkiness of the passenger side compartment there, of which there is no glove box. So I don't know how the PSC is going to fare. Stay tuned. And then of course you've got this steering column itself. It's girthy. Everything about this is kind of chonky. Although if there's one thing I could change about this car, it would be the interior colors. Black and gray. I'm so tired of black and gray. If they could give us maybe a powder blue option, or maybe even just change the center console, because like many cars, it's glossy and black and it's gonna scratch. As for the road feel though, well, it's very pleasant. It's remarkably comfortable. There's very little body roll. It's quite sure-footed. This is very adult. This is very grown up. This car does, however, have one pedal driving. It's got this S pedal that if I push the button there, I can, oh, that's some decent regen. But you can also adjust the regenerative braking, which basically turns braking into electricity, puts it back in the battery, using the flappy paddles on the side. Now that's loosened it right up. Now if I accelerate and then press the brake and maximum regen, it slows it down moderately, but it's not what I'd call true one pedal driving. I think in a lot of situations on the open road this is great, but in the city you're still going to be using the brake a lot. As for acceleration, well, the official time in both models is 6.9 seconds 0 to 100, and that's not epic by today's standards. It's good, but it's not Porsche Taycan level of speed. Again, I think this is a much more grown-up Subaru than the ones I used to hang around with. I would guess if this was a combustion car, this would be something like I'd say a 2.5 litre V6. Maybe even 3 litre. It moves pretty well. But of course, unlike a combustion car, this one costs nothing to run. One fill up with this, if you're on the Ecotricity EcoSaver plan, that's the plan I'm on, well, you're looking at about 12 bucks. 12 bucks for 485 kilometers of motoring. So if you want to get in on that action, head to ecotricity.co.nz and sign up, because Ecotricity is New Zealand's only certified climate positive electricity provider. No dirty gas, no expensive coal, just wind, hydro and solar and nothing else. Why wouldn't you sign up today? Give your kids a future, unless you don't like them, in which case go to one of those other suppliers. But Ecotricity, that's where you want to go. Oh, but now it looks like the sun might actually come out. I can mash the accelerator and have a bit more fun. And while sure this car has adaptive cruise and lane keeping assist, obviously in the countryside I can't test that, so again stay tuned, I'll give this car a real proper review very soon. But right now it just feels very refined. The acceleration, the handling, it's sensible. I like it. It's not sensible as in boring like, well, the Nissan Leaf. This is sensible as in all grown up. Though I should point out there's going to be a lot of people watching this video who are, like me, electric car enthusiasts, and this may not have enough grunt, or may not handle like a Audi RS e-tron GT, but this car is not aimed at those sort of people. This car's aimed at the normal person, the older person, who wants to just get behind the wheel and have a car they don't have to learn a new language, how to use the infotainment system. It's got buttons, it's got a go pedal, it's got a stop pedal, it's very refined, there's very little body roll, it handles the undulations in the road better than some much more expensive cars. I never knew what to make of it, but when I first got behind the wheel, I've got to say, I'm impressed. But what's it like to live with? Again, stay tuned. That video will be coming very soon. But so far, it's all right. And that's the guts of the Subaru Solterra at a glance, and even though I'm probably not the target audience, it does feel like a smooth, responsive electric car, but of course, I can't get a true feel for the vehicle from a 1-hour test drive. For that, you'll need to press the button that starts with sub and ends with Aru, or scribe, because a full review's booked in and it'll be here before you can say Subaru.